Good afternoon, everyone. So yes, we are on the RedTeam Security Summit 2021. We have very interesting topics, and one of the interesting topic is actually the payment card industry, uh, payment data security, payment security. So today, the talk will be securing payment data with data security standards. Will be presented by Nitin Bhatnagar. So it's our immense pleasure to invite you, Mr. Nitin Bhatnagar. We are very privileged to have you today.
Thank
For
you.
the audience, let me give a formal introduction about Mr. Nitin Bhatnagar. He is the Associate Director at PCI Security Standards Council. He leads the council's effort in increasing adoption and awareness of the PCI security standards in India. He has traveled almost like 55 plus countries and worked with businesses from 60 plus nationalities. He possesses bachelor's degree in computer science uh, from Bundelkhand University and have masters in cyber law and information security from IIT Allahabad. So we are really glad our participants will be able to get an insight into such experienced and intelligent speaker at this summit. Welcome, sir.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you, Red Team, I think, for inviting us. And pleasure is all mine to be here to give insights on what is happening in the payment card industry. So I'll not get into the introduction and directly start talking about who we are. And for the background, the Payment Card Industry Security Standard Council is an open global forum created in 2006 by the five major pay card brands, and the role was to develop, maintain, and manage the PCI security standards. Here, the payment brands, who like Visa, Mastercard, Amex, JCB, Discover, share equally in governance and execution of the PCI Council work. Just wanted to quickly help you all understand what PCI SSC and manages and what not. So PCI SSC manages the standards and not compliance. What PCI SSC does is that we develop and maintain PCI security standards and programs. We provide trainings, tools, and educational resources to support the PCI security standard implementation and compliance. What we do not do is that we do not manage or enforce the PCI compliance programs. Here, each PCI SSC founding payment brands they have their own compliance programs for the protection of its affiliate payment card account data. And if you have any questions post this session pertaining to the compliances, should be directed to the applicable payment brands. In case you have any questions, particularly on the standards, I would be happy to take. Talking about, before I move more, go deeply into what has been going on in the payment card industry, let me also introduce the PCI SSC, and our mission is here very simple: to help secure payment data. And how do we go about that is by developing standards and supporting services that drive education, awareness, and effective implementation by stakeholders. And to help achieve this, we have four strategic pillars that you can see on my screen. One, the first pillar is the increased industry participation and knowledge, evolve security standards and validation, secure emerging payment channels, and increase the standard alignment and consistency. Talking about one of the recent report IACI Worldwide that has released indicates that more than 70.3 billion real-time payment transactions are processed globally in 2020. And there has been a surge of 41% compared to the previous year. So, but expanding businesses means more targets and data for the criminals. So, yes, they are out there finding ways to harm your business for the illicit gains. I have also found an interesting research which was released by 2021 Cyber Threat Defense within the Cyber Defense Report from the Cyber Edge Group. And it has some great insights and highlights for us to have a deep thought on it. So the first point, I think, that reports indicates that just over 86% organization experience at least one successful cyber attacks within the preceding 12 months, with about 4 in 10 organization experiencing 6 incidents or more. More than two-thirds of organizations were victimized by ransomware. Malware, ransomware, and spear phishing continue to cause the most headaches. Zero-day attacks not as much as, and 9 out of 10 organizations have been affected by the cyber attacks targeting web and mobile applications. And this also includes carding and payment frauds attacks, accounting to 35.3%, where attackers have used bots to test list of recently stolen credit debit card details on the merchant websites. Digital skimming match card attacks accounted to 29.6%, where attackers injected malicious code into third-party JavaScript to steal the credit card data. And the number one barrier to IT security success is low security awareness among employees, followed by the lack of skilled personals, which is really an alarming indicated figures. Talking about quickly on the learnings, there was a report released by CISA Information Security with top to high learnings from data breaches. It highlights the data breaches and loss could have been prevented if these organizations would have focused on patching, application vulnerabilities, monitoring, access management, and had an incident response and forensics planning. So these are the quick 5 learnings I thought I'll bring it on for the audience. Talking about the PCI security standards. So payment security is just not data security standards or DSS. So DSS is the oldest and it embodies the connective philosophy and fit issues, protect payment data to prevent fraud. But the threats have evolved, and so had the payment security beyond PCI DSS. So data security standard or DSS, what we call, is the foundation of our objective, but we have evolved our standards. So PCI SSC now encompasses more than 15 data security standards that you can see on my screen, and they have to be adopted by various different actors in the payment ecosystem. So what led it to? The proliferation of channels, players, and technologies. So the new channels, more ways to make and accept payments today. It used to be simple when we talked of payments, but now they present new security challenges. New players, venues, and users, from cloud service providers to the token service providers to mobile application developers. Most exciting and a scary new technology opens new opportunities for businesses, which on the other side opens door for new and more efficient criminal models. So that's where we started with the environmental controls like DSS, and we added more. So let me quickly jump on to what has been happening within PCI Security Standard Council, and the most recent update is that we are updating our PCI DSS standard from version 3.2.1 to PCI DSS version 4.0. So here I'll walk you through some of the quick highlights and the goals for PCI DSS 4.0. So our goals for PCI DSS 4, which we have been able to stay true to, and I think the first and foremost is to ensure standards continue to meet the security needs of the payment industry. And second is the flexibility to ensure to support different methodologies being used to achieve security, and looking at ways to promote security as a continuous process rather than just point in time exercise. Finally, opportunities to enhance validation methods and procedures. So I will walk through each goal and will help understand, what each goal helps. So let me start by looking how we have ensured PCI DSS 4.0 continues to meet the security needs of the payment industry. So for this, we have been focused on new and evolving threats to the payment ecosystem, and considering how new technologies and the payment channels may be used within the current standards. A central part of our work has been also to provide the stakeholders of the community a draft of PCI DSS version 4.0 materials, so that we can gather industry feedback on the changes that are being proposed. So moving on to the next part. So as you can see, from on the slide, the first RFC, when I talk about the feedback, the first RFC in 2019 We have got over 3,000 comments from 153 companies. When we talk about the second RFC, we have got just under 1,800 comments from around 124 companies. And most recently, the third RFC, which ended in this June this year, we had close to 1,300 comments from 87 companies. So that brings, uh, on our total number of RFC's feedback items for PCI DSS 4.0 material to over just 6,300 feedbacks from close to 200 companies, and just not 200 unique companies. And I think this incredible amount of input has significantly assisted us in understanding the perspective and needs of the payment industry and helped us drive forward the development of the standard. Moving on to the next slide, and here this is going to be interesting because I'm going to walk you through and reveal the sneak peek of what is going to come by for DSS 4.0. So talking about, before we discuss some of the new requirements, I wanted to also clarify that this is only a snapshot of what is going to come, what is coming in PCI DSS version 4.0. Therefore, we strongly recommend reviewing the whole standard to fully understand all the new concepts and requirements. I also wanted to start with some of the new requirements for passwords. So if password or passphrase are used, a minimum length of at least 12 characters will apply, or the maximum allowed by the system, even if multi-factor authentication is used as another factor. This longer password length will be applicable. On the topic of multi-factor authentication, we have also added some additional controls, such as requiring MFA, multi-factor authentication, for all access into the cardholder data environment. Furthermore, we are added controls to ensure the multi-factor authentication systems are configured to prevent misuse. We have also looked at controls to mitigate phishing attacks, including adding technical controls as part of malware protection and requiring phishing to be included in all security awareness training. As many of you will be aware, e-commerce channels represent the significant portion of card compromises. As a result, we have added a new requirement to manage all payment page scripts loaded and executed in the consumer browser. Additionally, we have another requirement for a mechanism to detect and respond to any unauthorized changes on the payment page. Managing risk is also an important area in PCI DSS 4.0, and this will now be managed in requirements by performing a TRA, which is a targeted risk analysis. In short, a targeted risk analysis will allow the entity to determine the frequency for a requirement. For example, the frequency of a periodic malware scan. Additionally, here entities will be also be required to perform a TRA for all requirements met via a customized approach. I'm going to walk you through on the different approaches that the DSS 4.0 is going to come up with. You just wait for another couple of slides. The sensitive authentication data remains an important area where protections are needed. Therefore, we have added controls so that if an entity is stored said before completion of authorization, it is kept to a minimum through data retention and disposable policies and procedures. Additionally, any electronic SED, which is sensitive authentication data, is stored before the completion of authorization must be encrypted with a strong cryptography. From an issuer's perspective, they will also be required to encrypt all stored SED with strong cryptography. We have added and revised requirements on removable electronic media and uses of remote access technologies. For example, with remote access technologies, there's a new requirement for technical controls to prevent the copying and or relocation of PAN by personnel, except those with a documented explicit authorization. We have also added requirements on hashing. For example, if hashes are used to render PAN unreadable, then the hashes are key cryptographic hashes of the entire PAN, and they must have associated with a key management procedure. We have also added a requirement for reviewing and confirming user account privileges and privileges, including those for the third parties, at least once every 6 months. There's a lot. For example, for the application and system accounts, we have added that these accounts and related privileges are based on the minimum needed, and they're limited to only processes that requires their use. Additionally, we have included that if an application or system account can be used interactively, their use must be limited and tracked. There are many new requirements for when the entity being assessed is a third party service provider. Example of this includes that the third party hosting and cloud providers support customers' needs for external penetration testing, and that the IPS IDS techniques are used to detect and address covert malware communication channels. So as you can see, there's a lot. Quite a few changes are coming in the PCI DSS 4.0. The standard has been a complete rewrite, and today I have only provided you with an overview of some of those changes. So as I mentioned earlier, we strongly advise you to read the new standard from start to finish when it is released. The standard, I'm going to talk about when the standard is going to release for the slides. So talking about our second goal, we wanted to add flexibility and support for organizations in achieving security in different ways. And this we have been keen to recognize and allow the use of new technologies to meet security objectives. So how did we look at approaching this? Well, we wanted to ensure that the basic framework and structure of PCI DSS was maintained, but we have now introduced a new approach for implementing and validating control. So now there will be two options for how PCI DSS requirements can be met: the defined and the customized approach. So both of these options may be used within a PCI DSS assessment, or a mix of the approaches can be used for a PCI DSS requirements. So to provide a little more detail of the differences, the defined approach follows the traditional method for implementing and validating PCI DSS. In a sense, this is what you are doing now. So for example, whatever the way that you have been adopting to meet the PCI DSS requirements, the approach that you are taking is what is the defined approach. Now, in a typical assessment, this would be where an entity implements the security controls to meet the requirements, and the assessor follows the defined testing procedures to verify the requirements. The defined approach will support entities with controls already in place that meets the PCI DSS requirements and are comfortable with the current methods for validating controls to meet PCI DSS. Additionally, this approach would suit those looking for more specific directions on meeting security objectives, including those who might be new to information security or PCI DSS. In contrast, the customized approach focuses on a PCI DSS requirements intent or security objective. This approach allows an entity to determine the controls used to meet the stated objective, as a customized implementation will be different. There are no defined testing procedures. Instead, an assessor will be required to develop testing procedures that are appropriate to the specific implementation to validate that the customized controls meets the stated intent. So the approach supports innovation in security practices, allowing entities greater flexibility to show how their current security controls meet the PCI DSS objectives. It is important to also note that the customized approach is more likely to best suit the risk mature entities because of the increased reporting requirements. Ultimately, the customized approach is designed to support new technologies to meet the security objectives that do not fit within the traditional method for implementing and validating PCI DSS. Talking about the complicity control, I think as you can see on the slide, there's something that you will be familiar with already: complicity controls. And the PCI DSS 4.0, the option for entities to use complicity controls will remain. Although complicity controls weren't included in the earlier RFCs, it has been added back now due to feedback and stakeholders has been requesting us. So in PCI DSS 4.0, the assessed entities can use both complicity controls and the customized approach. So here, I just wanted to clarify, however, that the complicity controls and the customized approach have different audience. The complicity controls are for entities that cannot meet a requirement due to a business or technical constraint. This will be where an entity implements an alternative control that mitigates the same risk. In contrast, the customized approach is for entities with a novel approach that meets the objective of the requirement in a different way. The customized approach requires an entity to have robust risk management practice and document exactly how the chosen approach will satisfy the requirement's objectives. Just for the audience perspective, audience, information, we are currently working on an FAQ document that spells out the difference between these two options. So you may have to just stay tuned for just a couple of more weeks as we release this standard early next year. Moving on to our third and the fourth goal, they're tied together, as I will show you in a bit. Third goal promotes security as a continuous process by adding more guidance and more requirements and how to maintain effective controls. We have also added labels to guidance to better understand the intent, also adding roles and responsibilities requirement throughout the 12 high-level requirements. And also, we are making updates to the validation documents to really emphasize security as a continuous process. So our fourth goal is to enhance the validation method and procedure, update to validation documents made with the following objective in mind. The first objective that we have kept in mind, support the reporting flexibility for the customized approach, clarify the streamline reporting and attestations, aligning the documents, the consistency and the terms between the documents, build greater assurance and understanding on the approach, try to increase the transparency so that entities relying on reporting results understand reporting attestations. Transparency also ties to the third goal, security as a continuous process and how to report that. And this lead me into the RFC 3, and since is all about validation documents. So RFC 3 was largely focused on the validation documents, which we completed, and we are already now set for the release of the PCI DSS version 4.0. This is the important slide. I just wanted to bring the development timelines quickly. So the development timelines look like, I think we are already in 2021. I think Q1 is what we are expecting the draft to be, the preview of the standard to be released to the stakeholders. Initially, the preview is going to be released to the participating organization, the QSs and the ISAs. And then after 3 months, the standard is going to be made public. The qualified security assessor trainings on the new standards will be available through June 2022. And if you are interested to get yourself QSA trained or ISA trained or get some trainings on DSS 4.0, you should watch and you should keep a watch on the PCI Security Standards Council website. Talking about the transition timelines, there is also an extended transition period planned for this from PCI DSS version 3.2.1 to the PCI DSS version 4.0. We need to provide organization additional time to implement new requirements for extra period for the new requirements, future data requirements. So we have additionally providing some time or additional time for them to meet that. So we do anticipate that 4.0 will contain number of new future dated requirements, but do note that not every new requirement is future dated. So we have to just wait for the documents to be released early next year to have a clarity on which are those future dated requirements that you need to accomplish, or the timelines that you need to accomplish. The transition timelines also for DSS 4.0. The current plan is that 3.2.1 and 4.0 will both be active until Q1 of 2024. After that, version 3.2.1 will be retired and version 4.0 only active version. And the effective future date for the new requirements will be quarter one of 2025. So those new requirements are until the future dated requirements is reached. Entities should plan ahead through and start phasing them in. Will be required after the date. So the effective date for new requirements is about 2.5 years after the release of the standard for all supporting materials. So January is just around the corner, and March is not going to be so very far. So we are getting closer each day for PCI DSS version 4.0. Moving on to the next standard, I just wanted to quickly talk about on the software security framework. So, the software security framework was launched in January 2019, and is designed to support broad set of payment software architectures and development methodologies. And it built on the key principles that were first introduced in Payment Application Data Security Standard, which many of you will know, PCI DSS. And the two CSSF standards include Secure Software Lifecycle Standard and Secure Software Standard. Talking about the transition for PADSS, so just make it quick. I think June was the last month of the year. This year we have stopped it accepting any new application on PADSS. The standard will end. The program will end in October 2022, and this will no longer be the standard will no longer be in existence, and we all have to move to SSF, which is Software Security Standard, Secure Software Lifecycle, Secure SLC Standard, and the Secure Software Standard. The updates, I think quickly, I just wanted to provide on the mobile standards point of view. Yeah, I'm not sure whether how many you have seen. We have recently also released a blog in response to the industry feedback. We are expanding our mobile payment security standards with a new standard efforts for contactless on commercial off-the-shelf device to address the PIN acceptance. So we are currently working, evolving this further into a new standard, which has a modular objective-based standard, which is going to be modular and objective-based standard and programmed to incorporate SPOC, CPOC standards. So the working name of the new standard is Mobile Payments on COTS. And this new efforts would encompass solutions and deployment models already supported by SPOC and CPOC. So the work on a new standard has already been started. We are looking to publish, in first half of 2022 or towards the end of 2022. Initially, it's going to be RFC period, I think, which is going to happen early next year. Moving on, talking about the threat Persist. I think online digital skimming, social engineering, and ransomware attacks are being on the rise. And I think recently, Interpol report also cites a survey. Approximately 2/3 of organizations have sustained phishing or related fraud scams. Now, during this time of uncertainty, which is probably we all know the COVID-19. I think we all have the online activities, the increased online activities. Cyber criminals were actively working to exploit the current COVID-19 stories, which is still they are doing it with attacks aimed at taking advantage of the situation. So it is important now more than ever to be aware of online scams and threats as they are increasing in volume and sophistications. So during a time when a public is encouraged to stay informed about the unfolding public health issues, the cyber criminals were working hard to trick people into falling for common cyber attacks. So according to the US Secret Services, and one of the most common online attacks during this time is phishing and the social engineering attacks. The cyber criminals are exploiting the coronavirus through the wide distribution of mass emails posing as legitimate medical and our health organizations with important information about coronavirus. Hackers use phishing and other social engineering methods to target organizations with legitimate looking emails and social media messages that tricks users into providing confidential data such as your credit card numbers, debit card numbers, social security number, your personally identified information, including your financial information of your bank accounts, account numbers, or passwords. These attacks have been around for a while. We all know about it, right? We are at the heart of many of today's most serious cyber attacks and can put your business and your consumers at risk. So it is important to have your guard up when you're opening up emails and engaging in social media. As more and more people work remotely due to COVID-19 situation, everyone needs to be aware of how to best protect against the phishing and social engineering attacks. Talking about ransomware, which is another area which is alarming. Ransomware attacks have been in the front and center in the news recently due to high-profile data breaches, that have impacted businesses across the globe. So these headlines grabbing attacks have been part of a larger global increase in ransomware crime, with a dramatic increase in security challenges due to the disruption caused in part by the COVID-19 pandemic. There has been a significant increase in ransomware attacks. In 2020, there was an estimate 150% increase in ransomware attacks, and 2021 has seen this activity continue the trend. So the surge in ransomware activity has left many businesses and governments around the world scrambling for answer as they struggle to stay ahead of organized cybercriminal gangs. So these cyber threats are very real and require immediate action to protect against these ongoing criminal activities. So PCI Security Standard Council has some great resource guides. PCI also shares the key consideration educational resources to help better understand and protect against the ransomware attacks and other threats that have been persistent. Quickly moving on, I have got an interesting section on the significant challenge affecting our organizations globally today is the ATM cash out attacks. So I'll try to explain how this challenging attack can be impacted by adopting and implementing the PCI SSC standards and programs. So ATM cash out is a major global challenge, but what is it is what it is not. The ATM cash out is not an attack against the actual ATM. And it is definitely not a jackpotting, right? Those are different problems for discussion. Probably we can Jaraj, we can set up some things together to have a discussion on this. But ATM cash out is about withdrawing large amounts of cash from a number of ATMs in a very short period due to breaching the bank systems rather than the ATM itself. So the ATM role in this attack is essentially it is where the money is, right? So how does it happen? How it works. ATM cash out attacks is an elaborate and beautifully choreographed attack and starts when the criminals breaches the bank system and networks. And the most common method of achieving that these days is a phishing attack, especially when so many staffs are working remotely. And the entire success of the attack now depends on the security processes and procedures implemented by the bank or not. The criminals will use his access to change settings and control to the bank's systems, enabling for ATMs to provide unlimited withdrawals of unlimited value. At the same time, the criminal will modify a particular consumer account and credentials, moving a huge amount of money into the customer accounts. Oh, that's how the ATM cash out works. Now, what are cash out day? So on a specified day, usually the start of a long public holiday weekend when the ATMs have been filled with the criminals will attack. What I mean to say, the cash filled in the ATMs. Using a number of criminals with a pre-configured cloned cards, they will withdraw as much as money possible from ATMs. In some attacks, it doesn't matter which ATM is used as long as it is linked to the bank under attack. As a result, the criminals can undertake the attack from a number of different countries simultaneously. In other attacks, if the criminals have not been able to modify the systems to allow unlimited cash withdrawal, they may choose a specific ATM's chain that have a higher cash withdrawal ceiling. So when the attacks happen, it is very quick and very damaging, with significant amount of cash being withdrawn very quickly. As you can see, there are news reports that comes quickly when such incident happens. So how we can prevent the attacks? So we know what happens, how it happens, and how do we go about stopping it now? Well, as always, it comes down to three key principles of people, process, and technology. And in the current environment of COVID-19, COVID, a large majority of us, are working remotely. But we are social animals. We like to talk to our friends and colleagues. Where that is not possible in person, then we switch to other channels, including social media. These are often where the criminals can find a lot of information. Once they undertaken the research, they will reach out with phishing attacks or even spear phishing attacks. So once they so for example, now we receive emails with links every day. We cannot stop using links altogether, right? But when we receive an email with a link, I would request you to consider following. I'm sure, I think the audience are in such kind of a cybersecurity conference would be aware of, but just wanted to reiterate just to create that awareness. First question, I think, why I have received this email with a link. Am I expecting it? Is the email from someone I know? How have they addressed you? I think that's most important to understand. Whether they have addressed you with your name, just they have written hi, or they're saying dear user, or they have just using some slang languages. modern phishing emails are really good. It's very difficult to identify whether they are phishing emails or not. So having a close watch on such emails is very important. Hover your mouse over the links, or probably before you download the attachments, see if it is sending you to the right location described in the link or somewhere else. If in case you are in any doubt, please do not click. And if the businesses are attending this session, I think I would request everyone to train your staff to become your strongest link, not your weakest, especially when you're now all working remotely. Second important principle is the process. So the process, having the clear policies and procedures to tackle how do we connect to the bank systems and networks is essential. And that means a strong password policy with multi-factor authentication. It is also critical to keep your systems up to date, which means having a clear patching process so that all patches are implemented in a timely manner and the critical security patches as soon as possible. And the third important key principle is the technology. Do not use unsupported softwares. There's still far too much unsupported softwares in use globally. The criminals rely on this as it makes their work so much easier. So do ensure all your software patched within 30 days of a release. Ensure your system flag changes to the I'm specifically relating to the ATM cash out to the ATM networks. If your banks attending this, if you're to fraud detection controls to consumer customer accounts, have systems that identify if someone have access changes, especially if their status move out to an admin. I would request here segmentation, segmentation, segmentation. Have a clear segmentation within your systems. Monitor your logs and act on suspicious activity. It is the first place, that the payment forensik investigators will look when you have been breached. And last but not least, undertake regular penetration testing. So finally, protect your systems. Utilize velocity monitoring of underlying accounts and volumes. Use 24/7 monitoring capabilities, including file integrity monitoring system FIMS, to flag up any unusual activity or changes. Have a reporting system that sounds the alarm immediately when the suspicious activity is identified. Development and practices of an incident response management system is critically important. Check for unexpected traffic sources, example your IP addresses. Look for unauthorized execution of network tools. So using all of this will help at least reduce the risk and increase chances of detecting and preventing the attack before it happens. I would request, I think that's what it says. And yes, the adopting and implementing the PCI DSS really helps. As I move towards the closure of my presentation, PCI SSC has also launched training for staffs that operates in remote environments such as home office, and teaching them the basics overview of protecting against the phishing and other relevant risks, and why their organization is asking them to adhere to the PCI requirements. So I think the latest example is what we have come up with, the work from home training and a corporate training for the corporates, where they can understand basic, and this is just a 45 minutes training. If you're interested, you can always reach out to PCI Security Standard Council for more information. If you are speaking about the certifications, if you are someone that relies on those that you have been qualified by PCI SSC as a qualified security assessor or ASV or internal security assessor, or you're a PCIP, we have new voluntary program to receive free universal badge to demonstrate that achievement. Starting this quarter, we have already rolled out our badging system, which is free to use after the successful completion of any PCI exam. So we will be using the same badging platform used by many global certification bodies. So it can provide a central way for a person to be recognized for the achievements. Last, not the least, I think if you're interested, if you want to get involved with the payment card industry, becoming a participating organization is a way that you can impact these standards and the card payment security globally. The benefits also includes you become a part of a global network. As a PO, you can not only impact the payment security globally, connect with the payment security leaders, and also gain visibility for your organization and demonstrate your commitment to payment security to your customers and your business partners. I think this is what I just highlighted. I think if you're interested, there's a link given. You can always go onto the PCI Security Standard website to get access to the benefits and of joining the PCI Security Standard Council. That's all I have for the audience. And I think we all know the world of payments is quickly changing, just not in India. What also has changed is how we engage with you and how we communicate with you. When we established the stakeholder engagement group at the PCI Council, our mission was for the team was to improve payment security globally by facilitating industry awareness. That's what I'm doing, creating education, knowledge sharing, and participation. And we would love to hear from you on how we are doing, what we can do differently, and where the attention needs to be. Thank you very much. Hope that was a session that would have helped you in securing the payment data. Over to you.
Thank you so much, sir. That was a wonderful session. Now we can ask the audience if they have any question answer session. We can move on to that. Okay. So
Sure.
on the right hand side of your screen, you can see the question answer session. So audience, if you have any doubts, you can ask questions to Mr. Nitin Bhatnagar.
I think I see a question which says that how would you suggest the implementation of multi-factor authentication or the use of ATMs? So I think, see, the implementation support pertaining to any implementation, I think the payment brands, as I said, this is more towards the compliance. We develop the standards and we maintain these standards, but any compliance pertaining questions have to be redirected to the payment brands, because the payment brands are the one who drive the compliances for various initiatives that they have for the standards being developed by PCI Security Standard Council. How to use AI for detecting data security issues, sir, automatically, like monitoring system. Again, there are many products that are available in the marketplace. I think I may not be able to tell you which products that you should be using, but I think AI, ML, and other technologies are playing very crucial role in helping detect the fraudsters and the suspicious activities on the networks or on your applications. Definitely, there are a lot of organizations or the security companies who have been working around on using these technologies to monitor your system, so that there is a lesser impact on your organization, lesser impact on your systems. When it comes to the hackers gaining access to your system. So I think definitely AI ML are helping a lot, and they are helping a lot in terms of resolving many of the issues around the monitoring. Any good courses you can suggest for ML for cybersecurity? I can suggest you, if you are interested in the payment industry, interested in payment card industry, you should go for PCIP. PCIP is a certification for the payment security professionals, and this is an individual certification. If you are interested, I think that covers a lot, and you will get a good insights. Well, how to avoid cloning of ATM cards and how to respond if someone lost their money? Is there a way to get back? This is again more of, I think, if somebody has you should report it to the bank directly first, and I think they would be guiding you in terms of what are the next steps that you need to take. But definitely, cloning of card, avoid. I think, see, you should not use your card. You cannot, when you are going for some kind of a shopping or some kind of for example, petrol pumps, when you're getting your car fueled or your bikes fueled. So I think it's important that you should not give the card to the vendor directly, and you should be there when you are making those kind of payment transactions. So that would be the best way to avoid cloning of your ATM cards, and that could help. If something happens, if the cloning happens, then probably you should report it to the bank immediately for any unauthorized transaction that would have happened on your card, and they will be taking the actions on that. Will all card payment processing companies have to update and implement? Yes, definitely. They all have to adopt to the PCI DSS, because, as I said, 2.5 years is a time when we are giving for 3.2.1 to migrate to PCI DSS version 4.0. So there's a transition timeline for everyone to adhere to, and the sooner the better. When the standard is released, your clocks start ticking, and I think earlier the better, rather than waiting for the last minute.
Okay, so whenever you are ready, you can go live.
So I think that is the end of the question. So thank you so much, sir. That was really an informative session about all the current trends, and we hope to collaborate with you in the future as well. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. So, audience, we have another session is going to start soon. It is of Mr. Jauhar Abu Bakar on the topic Project Management in Information Security. And in stage 2, we have another session of Mr. Noel Varghese on the topic Cyber Kill Chain and Overview. So, do enjoy the sessions, guys. And you can also visit the booth session, and you can talk to representatives of RedTeam Hacker Academy, RedTeam Cybersecurity Labs, and RedTeam 360, and also Hack the Box representatives and many others. So do check that also out. And thank you so much for attending this session. And you can now move on to other sessions. Thank you so much.